When the rain returned 15 years ago, a poor village boy disappeared without a trace after promising the girl he loved that he would one day return for her. Everyone believed he died at sea, but on the night of her engagement, during the worst storm the town had ever seen, someone knocked on her door, and standing there in the rain was the boy she never forgot. In a small fishing village surrounded by cliffs and crashing waves lived a boy named Eli. He was poor, poorer than most people in the village. His clothes were old, his slippers were torn, and some nights he slept hungry beside his sick mother in their leaking wooden house. But none of that mattered when he was with Mara. Mara was the daughter of a local tailor. She had a warm smile and kind eyes, and unlike everyone else in the village, she never looked down on Eli. Every evening after school, they sat beneath the old rain tree near the shore, talking about dreams that felt impossible. One evening, as rain clouds gathered above the sea, Mara handed Eli a small handmade necklace. "Promise me something," she said. "What is it?" Eli asked. "No matter how far life takes you, come back someday." Eli smiled and held her hand gently. "Even if the whole world forgets me," he whispered, "I'll still come back for you." But life had other plans. Months later, Eli's mother became seriously ill. The medicine she needed cost more money than Eli had ever seen in his life. He begged the villagers for help, but nobody cared enough to save a poor woman and her son. Then one night, men arrived at the docks. They offered Eli dangerous work transporting illegal goods across the sea. One trip, they said, and he would earn enough money to save his mother. Eli knew it was wrong. But desperation can make good people do terrible things. Before leaving, he ran to see Mara one last time. "I'll be back before the rainy season ends," he promised. "You better," Mara replied jokingly, "or I'll hate you forever." They laughed together beneath the rain tree. It was the last night she ever saw him. Days later, a violent storm destroyed several boats near the coast. Bodies washed ashore. Eli's never did. But everyone believed he was dead. Mara waited for months, then years. Eventually, the village moved on. But she never truly forgot him. 15 years passed. The village changed. New buildings replaced old homes. Children became adults. Life continued the way it always does. Mara grew into a beautiful young woman, but sadness still lived quietly behind her smile. Finally, after years of pressure from her family, she agreed to marry Victor Hale, the wealthy son of the most powerful businessman in town. Victor was charming, successful, and respected, but Mara did not love him, not the way she once loved Eli. On the night of their engagement celebration, rain poured harder than anyone had ever seen before. Thunder shook the windows. Guests laughed and danced inside the house while Mara stood alone near the doorway staring into the storm. Then suddenly, knock, knock, knock. The room fell silent. Mara slowly opened the door. A tall man stood outside, soaked by rain. His face carried scars, and exhaustion lived in his eyes. In his hand was a broken necklace, the same necklace she had given Eli 15 years earlier. The man looked at her quietly. "You once told me rain brings lost things home." Mara's body froze. "Eli." He nodded slowly, and suddenly the ghost she had buried inside her heart was standing alive before her. The village was shocked by Eli's return. Some people called it a miracle. Others whispered that something dark had followed him home. And in many ways, they were right. Eli revealed the truth to Mara days later. The smugglers he worked for had been attacked during the storm years ago. Eli survived, but he was captured and forced to work for a criminal network operating across the coast. Every attempt to escape ended in violence. Every mistake meant death. "I wanted to come home every single day," Eli told her, "but they would never let me leave." Mara struggled to believe him. "If you loved me," she asked quietly, "why didn't you write?" Eli stared at her silently before opening an old metal box. Inside were dozens of letters, every single one addressed to Mara, letters written over 15 years. Mara's hands trembled as tears filled her eyes. "What happened to them?" The answer came from an old village herbalist named Mama Sarah. Someone had been intercepting Eli's letters for years. Someone powerful, Victor's father, the same man who secretly controlled the smuggling routes along the coast. He had learned Eli survived years ago and made sure he never returned to the village. Victor was horrified when he discovered the truth about his family. For the first time in his life, he saw the darkness behind his father's wealth. Meanwhile, armed men arrived near the village searching for Eli. The criminal network he escaped from wanted him dead before he exposed them. Fear spread through the town. On the morning of the wedding, Mara found Eli preparing to leave again. "Why do you always leave?" she cried. Eli looked at her with pain in his eyes. "Because everyone near me gets hurt." But this time, Mara refused to let him disappear. Before Eli could flee, police stormed the harbor after Victor secretly gave authorities evidence against his father and the smugglers. Chaos erupted across the village. Gunshots echoed through the rain as criminals tried to escape by sea. And in the middle of the storm, Eli risked his life to protect Mara. By morning, the criminal network was destroyed. Victor's father was arrested, and the village that had lived in fear for years was finally free. Weeks later, Mara stood near the sea beneath the old rain tree. Footsteps approached behind her. She turned slowly. It was Eli, alive. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Mara smiled through tears. "You took long enough." Eli laughed softly. "But I came back." And as rain began falling gently over the ocean once more, the two people life tried hardest to separate finally found their way back to each other.